Hello, everyone. Welcome to Film Seizure. I am your co-host, Jason Oliver, joined by my other co-hosts, Jeff Arbuckle. Say hello, Jeff.
Hello. You announced yourself as the co-host.
The Coco host.
I would like to say that I am more along the lines of a Rice Krispies
or a cocoa nut.
Anyway, go over to Chuck. I've already
the other cocoa nut is Chuck Moore.
Hey,
Introduce
how are you?
yourself, Chuck.
I'm Chuck Moore, coming to you live from Indianapolis, Indiana. Well, not live, but that's where,
Yeah, that's where we're from.
Yeah.
Indeed.
That's where things happen around here. But that's not where we're going to be. Where are some of the places we're going to go to this month? It's spooky month.
It is. We're going to space.
Uh-huh.
We're going to a seaside town in New England.
Potter's Bluff, yeah.
Yeah, Potter's Bluff, yeah. I forget.
London.
We are. Yeah, that's the last one, right?
No,
London.
that's the next one. That's the third one.
Is that London?
That is London.
What?
Yeah.
What? What are you talking about?
pretty
We
sure.
talking about the same movie?
Well, no, I think the one you're thinking is third is actually last, and that one's Louisville.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you talking about? London? Like,
I'll tell you what, I
like
have
London,
no
Ohio,
idea
or something?
what you guys are talking about.
Well,
None.
let me explain.
We go. I'm botching this all over the place.
We are embarking on week one of our annual spooky season month. As we are wont to do, we like to talk about spooky movies during the month of October. And I posed the idea of making it a theme, but a theme based on a creator, not necessarily a series of movies or a type of movie. So we are going to do a month of Dan O'Bannon movies. Yay! I can hear you all applauding.
Yay!
Yay! So
I mean, these are four movies I like. So
yeah, I think it's going to be a good month. It's funny because it's almost kind of like a de facto Ronald Shusett month too, even though he was really only involved in two of these movies. But we have in fact covered an O'Bannon Shusett joint before, and that would be Total Recall.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So this is not our first foray into their work.
Hey guys, this is not our first rodeo.
It's not our first rodeo. Not at all. Not our first space voyage.
No, it's certainly not that. It is definitely not that. Maybe our first space horror voyage, though.
Yes.
Although I don't know. Well, what about that one Hellraiser, or that one Leprechaun?
Oh, or that one Leprechaun.
I mean, that one was a horrible space adventure. Both
Jeff,
of them weren't very good.
You got to think before you speak, man. Come on.
I know. I'm just gonna go.
So, what is the first movie?
So yeah, we're going to, I guess, do these chronologically. Was that the plan then, Jeff?
No, I think the last one is very specifically for Halloween week.
Okay.
Or the week
that's
up
where
to
the
the
where the
last,
jumbling came.
Right? Yeah, I think so.
Because I'm not sure where those last two fall chronologically.
I don't know either. I don't really. Yeah.
But we are going to kick things off with, a drop dead classic, one of the best movies we could possibly ever cover. Really, 1979's Alien.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a long time coming. We've kicked around the idea of doing an Alien month. But yeah, here we are finally.
And I think we'll maybe get to the sequel. Certainly the second movie at some point.
Absolutely,
Aliens.
the second movie.
And I would say that, interestingly, reading and doing a new deep dive into Alien and preparing for this episode, it's given me kind of like the itch to watch the third one too, because it is a nice rounding out of the trilogy in a lot of thematic ways. And then they just decided to throw all that out with creating a fourth movie that is absolutely bug nuts. In mostly bad, but some good ways.
Yeah, I mean, and after the third one, it gets bad for me.
It does. It
gets very bad for me. And in fact, I would say half of the third one is not a good time for me.
I like the third one. And
yeah, I know.
And I think part of my love for the third one is also the fact that it's the first one I saw in the theater.
That's fair. Right? That's fair. I mean, I'll go ahead and say that this is maybe somewhat controversial. I really like Alien, and I really like Aliens. In fact, I would say they are two. We will talk a lot about Alien here in a minute. I am not really an Alien franchise fan. It's kind of like with Predator, right? I like Predator. I like Predator 2. Ain't nothing happened after that I really care about.
You didn't like Prey? Prey was awesome.
Oh, Prey. Okay, Prey. But I almost feel like that's kind of almost it's so far removed from those other ones that it almost feels like it's kind of starting something over again, as opposed to hopping onto the more other recent ones that came out. But okay, Prey. I forgot about Prey.
I think, on all honesty, I think that the Predator franchise has a better batting average than the Alien franchise.
It might. I just haven't been that interested.
There's really only one Predator movie I don't like.
Was that
the
Predator or
Predators? Predators.
Oh, okay.
The Shane Black one?
No. It was The Predator. That's the Shane Black one.
Yeah, Adrian Brody was in Predators, right? Okay.
I liked the Robert Rodriguez one, yeah.
Okay. Well, see, now Robert Rodriguez could bring me into that movie, but I don't know. We're getting off topic.
Anyway, we're not talking about Predator, are we?
No, we're talking about Alien, and this movie is phenomenal. I
was
going
to make a dumb joke that I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it.
Okay, fair enough.
Why not? Everything else has been great so far.
Everything. We're really off and running here.
It would be like we would have to make a case for starting over if I made it. So I'm not gonna.
Okay,
it's just
fair enough.
I was trying to make it work in my brain, and it just wasn't going to work.
Yeah, so. sometimes it just doesn't. No, that's fine. I will say, I guess if we're going to do our normal thing here.
Yeah, let's do a normal thing.
I mean, this is a movie that, much like with Star Wars, has kind of always been there. With like the poster, that cracking egg, it's like that's an image that's like burned into my brain.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a movie that at least the first 30 minutes or so feels like it's some of my earliest memories. I know it's not, but it's like I'm so familiar with everything that happens in the early part of this movie. Everything from like the way that the title reveals itself, the poster, the going through the halls of the Nostromo, all of that is like ingrained into my very being, and I don't know why. I think maybe it was one that when I was really, really little, I always wanted to see, but this might have been one of the rare instances where it's like, it's a little too scary. It's a little too like intense for little Jeff, but I don't know. Big Jeff sure likes it.
What about you, Chuck? When can you remember what was your earliest memory of the Xenomorph?
This is one that I would have watched in the mid 80s, probably, like or late 80s, when I was like finding horror, watched Halloween, watched Alien. So it's probably like 10 or 11. Much like Jeff, some of that early stuff in the movie, specifically like the title card build, is like burned into my brain. Like the way that they build the Alien title is so awesome. And I remember Jonesy. Mm-hmm. Like being a kid, I loved Jonesy. There was a period in my life where I was like, where the hell is Newt in this movie? Which is kind of funny because I saw both of those maybe around the same time, right? Because Alien and Aliens had come out. Like for me, it was like they're both available when I watched them.
It's also something where it's like, I think there are a lot of people who get stuff from the two movies confused. Which one is in which? You know what I mean? So yeah.
For me, much like you, Jeff, the image of the green light and the cracked egg, that has been with me for as long as I remember. Like, I mean, this is interesting too, because we're giving our memories, right? And I'm gonna give you lots of little tidbits in this episode, but the original script name was Memory, for Alien. And but yes, and I was too young to see it, and like we've talked about before, a lot of what I watched was very heavily controlled by my parents. But I first one I saw was Aliens, and I was at a sleepover. A classic, sleepover, and somebody puts on Aliens, and that was my first introduction to this universe, and it blew my mind. Like, that whole last sequence with the Queen and Ripley and the power loader, and it just, I was hooked, and it was my favorite movie I'd ever seen when I saw it.
So you saw Aliens before Alien?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And it's interesting because you can watch that movie, and it there's plenty there, and plenty context given to where you really don't need to see the first movie. I mean, there are things that are alluded to. There's definitely things that would enrich your experience if you had seen the first movie,
right?
But it's not really necessary fully. That's why it's such a good sequel in a lot of ways, right? But of course, after I saw Aliens and I put it together with the box that I'd always been amazed by, I was like, I forget how I got a hold of it. Maybe my buddy had it on VHS, because that's what we watched, the Aliens on VHS, and I might have borrowed it and watched it like secretly. I don't even remember. Like, the movie is just like from that point on is just, I feel like I've always sort of been aware and have loved and lived in this universe in my mind, right?
I want to ask you a question, because I'm imagining you, 12 to 14 when you saw it?
No, I was much younger. So Aliens came out in what, like 86? I think it was on video by like 87, 88. So I was probably like 8 or 9.
Okay, so you saw this wonderful, amazing action movie, Aliens.
Oh, yeah.
When you went back to Alien, were you like, what the hell is this?
I wasn't. Yeah. I wasn't. I kind of expected it, to be honest. And I believe it or not, I think I had seen Blade Runner already, and I had made the connection between Ridley Scott, between the two. But no, I wasn't. I wasn't surprised or disappointed. I was like completely sucked in, right? Because it is just like this different type of horror. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it's probably one of the first real slasher films, if you want to call it that I ever saw too, right? So I'm one of those people who will find good in any of the sequels and prequels. I will, and I'll watch them no matter what. I'm just gonna. And yes, do I wish they were better? Some of them were better. Do I wish they had done different things than they did? Yes. For sure. But I'm going to watch everything they put out. The new movie that's coming out, I'm going to see it. The TV show that they're making, I'm going to watch it. And I'm going to be excited to do so. And I'm going to get real excited. And I'll probably be somewhat disappointed. But it doesn't matter. I'm always going to get excited for it. I can't tell you how fucking frothing at the mouth I was for Prometheus. And yeah,
I like that movie a lot.
I like it too. I like it too. And I've grown to appreciate it in different ways. But it was not, that was the one where I was like expecting something that I did not get.
Right.
But I don't like some of how it retcons what I love about Alien either. Right? So we're going to talk about some of that.
We're not talking about Prometheus.
But when we talk about the space jockey, it has to be.
Sure, okay, sure.
But I also was like familiar enough with the comics, because the comics went on a lot of weird directions with the engineers as well. But the comics I've always treated those as just kind of like, tangents, right?
Non-canon
Things that could have
tangents.
happened. Yeah, exactly. What ifs, right?
How's the current Marvel is currently publishing a
They just
and they
finished
also
the
have
run.
a Predator series too now.
I haven't read that, but they did just finish a 5-issue arc. It was okay. It's fine.
Is it okay? Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
I think that and maybe this is partly my, because I was kind of curious about this. I would kind of flip through them when I was, picking them up for you if I picked up any for you. And like, I think I feel like when it comes to like Predator and Alien, one of the reasons why it's like, they're fine for what they are, but I'm not a huge fan of them. And I think this might be mostly my fault, but I get stuck in my head that it's like outside of the first two of both of those series and then Prey, because again, Prey, I kind of feel like is kind of a starting anew. But anyway, when I think about those movies and I think about those franchises, I think that it oftentimes just repeats a lot of the same stuff, and it's trying to always chase this concept of evil company wants alien thing gets free in a place where nobody can come and help. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, it's like the first two times is pretty great. It's like, I don't know if I need any more of that.
That's the problem with this new comic book run. Is it's really just kind of a rehash of Aliens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
And so that's why I do agree. Like people who come to this franchise and try to re-envision it or try to reimagine it or try to give, another worthy entry into it, they're not sure what to do.
Yeah.
They're like, do I just make another monster movie, or do I make a big action movie? Do I focus on expanding the universe, or do I bring it back closer to the vest, right?
Yeah.
And both attempts at expanding and contrasting have both, there's been misfires on both of those. So I think people are just kind of gun shy about what to do with it. And then Ridley Scott, everybody thinks, oh yeah, the guy who knows it better than anyone is gonna expand the universe by creating a prequel to very mixed results, right?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes what he's doing is he is expanding the mythology, but he's kind of like he's changing it in ways that are hard to grapple on in some ways. I don't dislike it, but it's not like instant classic material.
Sure.
Right?
Sometimes the guy who starts the thing doesn't really have the best ideas of where to take it.
Yeah.
It's like, how many times have we been burned by a George Lucas?
Well, I'm sure we're going to talk about this too, but Dan O'Bannon wrote this, not...
Right. That's exactly what I was going to say.
That's Chuck, the other thing, too. Yeah, it's like he's not even the guy.
This was conceived by Dan O'Bannon. Yeah. It was not conceived by Ridley Scott. It was not conceived by Walter Hill. It was not even conceived by Ronald Shusett, right? It was originally conceived by Dan O'Bannon. But in fairness to all those other people and everyone else that worked on this, Dan O'Bannon really only wrote one first act before Shusett got involved. And then they hammered out a full script, and then Walter Hill and David Giler, they went in and they completely rewrote it. A lot of stuff persists, like the basic story, the most famous scene. That's probably the reason why it got made, is because Walter Hill was like, this movie, the script kind of sucks, but it's got one great scene, right? And then... But it was very much a creative effort. Once Ridley Scott got involved as director, because Walter Hill was going to direct it and dropped out, he brought a lot of vision to it. A lot of the creative team from Jodorowsky's failed Dune project got ported onto this. So you had people like Chris Foss, again O'Bannon, Mobius, and H.R. Geiger, all contributing amazing ideas. Like this, the Alien truly is like the product of so many different creative energies all coming together and making something amazingly groundbreaking
perfect storm
and cohesive. Yeah, it's a perfect storm of creativity.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and the other thing is also you brought up how O'Bannon was influenced by French comic artists and stories, and you brought up Mobius.
Yep.
I see a lot of Valerian in this too.
Sure.
The Nostromo being just this giant space city almost, That's a Valerian thing. I mean, absolutely, 100%. And considering how much Valerian had influenced the look of Star Wars, it's in here too. It's got to be.
Yeah, I mean, Mobius didn't do a ton with the ships, but he did do some early concept designs. Yes, this was one of like in a long line of kit bashed. The Nostromo was very much like the kit bash. You know, you had. Sure. You had the 2001 kind of started it, and then Star Wars sort of cemented it, and then Alien was following it, right? Yeah. It wasn't really until Dune, David Lynch's Dune, where they were like, we got to do anything but kit bash another spaceship, right?
Yeah.
But in Alien, it is so cool because it is like literally a refinery, a mineral refinery that is a working refinery that is floating through space. Like that is super cool.
Well, and it's there. The great thing about this movie, and what I love so much, especially about the first 30 minutes of this movie, is it is so good at showing you a world that is utilitarian.
Yeah.
It's like the inside of that ship, every single thing, you may not know, and our 20th or 21st century brains aren't going to know what everything is there for, but you can kind of imagine that everything in those hallways, especially like those half pipes, there's something, they're there for a purpose, and it's like the only rooms that are white are the places that you eat, sleep, and live in. Everything else is dirty, it's used, it's lived in, and it's like this one thing that sci-fi often gets wrong. There's two ways that you can go about a future. You can make it utopian, or you can make it look current but different, right? And Blade Runner and Alien make it look current but different, whereas Star Trek is, of course, the utopian kind of idea. Everything's clean and nice. And Star Wars fell in someplace in between, and it's oftentimes sci-fi tries to go too hard with, oh, look at how different things are. You don't have to do that. I mean, we can talk about whether or not the Nostromo could actually transport anything through space because of its mass. Sure, we can talk about that, but that's not important. The thing is that it's utilitarian. It looks like it has a reason to be that.
I don't even, while I'm watching it, I don't even think about that. I think about the fact that I'm fucking alone on that ship.
Sure. Well, right? That's the other thing that this movie does so well, too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the lived-in part of it, yes. You need to notice that, this has been used. This has been used recently. There's a coffee cup on the table, and there's nobody fucking around, and it's scary.
Yeah. Well, that was something else I was going to say about, the realness of all of this, whether it's the dread of feeling like you're walking around a ship by yourself, that you have no idea what you're really you're looking at a thing, you're looking at the inside of a ship, but you don't know where anybody else is. You don't know if anybody's going to jump out. You don't know anything. But what's the first thing everybody does when they get out of sleep? They're all sitting around smoking cigarettes. It's like, right. It's such a realistic, and the stuff they're talking about work. I mean, if there's one thing that's true, is that I think space capitalism also sucks, because they want their shares. They want to make sure that they're doing their job so they get their shares. These are just people doing their work. Now, they probably aren't the best people to go investigate any signs of life, but that's this is all a setup. But anyway, but the other thing that this movie does so well is not only is it a really good science fiction movie, it is individually and separately a really good horror movie. Because a lot of horror movies will either go too much gore or too many jump scares. This one knows how to do both things exactly on the right scale. It builds up the jump scares, and it oftentimes cuts away from gore so that we're forced to have to kind of piece things together ourselves. Like, what the heck is the second Little Mouth doing? Oh, it's taking chunks out of people,
Right.
It's really good.
those
Go ahead,
two
Jason,
things,
sorry.
you credit to Ridley Scott, because he was managing some really strong, independent, creative visions while making this movie, and basically his tenets were, functional. Everything should look functional, should look real. Everything that, it's futuristic, but it should look like it has the texture of the past, right? Like the technology doesn't necessarily advance as quickly as you think it does, right? So it should look tangible.
It should resemble something we've seen before, but maybe advanced, right?
Yes, yes.
Oh yeah, the room for Mother. I don't know what all those Christmas lights are for, but I'm assuming that they're for something.
Right,
and
right.
that
that's
readout
that's
is
probably the most futuristic thing in the movie. Yeah, is
but
Mother.
the screen is a cheapo 1978 screen. It's like there's no font options there. There's no there's no widescreen. It's obviously whenever you're making science fiction, you can only go into the future as far as you can perceive it. And they had no idea that there would be like these awesome computer graphics or anything like that.
Right.
It wasn't until Tron came along and told us all we can do better.
Well, Scott, he also was very intentional about the pacing, right, and about the leaving things to the imagination, right? He called it, in a lot of ways, he was very aware of the fact. He was aware of two movies. He was very aware of Star Wars, and he liked Star Wars. He said he watched it 4 times in a row on 4 separate nights, and it never diminished at all. He was in awe of it. He thought he would hate it, actually, and he loved it. But he knew he wasn't making Star Wars. But he also knew this movie got greenlit because of Star Wars, and it did. Fox, 20th Century Fox was like, it's the only sci-fi script we've got. We're going for it. You got a green light. And they let Brandywine and Shusett and O'Bannon go ahead. But then the other thing, sorry, what was I saying before that?
I'm trying to remember. I was captivated by the last thing you said. You said there were 2 things. We were talking about the separation of horror and sci-fi.
And I was talking about the pace. And,
the pacing.
He was very aware of Star Wars, but he was also very aware of Jaws. That's where I was going.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, I'm kind of making Jaws in space, right? He would say that, and he's kind of right. In a lot of ways, he's making a sci-fi shark movie. But he always jokes as like, but I think I showed my Alien a lot more than Steven showed his shark.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, both those things were very intentional, right? Like, and those are the things that work in this movie so well. It gives you a connection to it, even though it's futuristic and even though it's an alien. But it also is like so jarring because of all the people who had just seen Star Wars, to go into a movie like Alien and be really pretty unsuspecting, that was a shock, I think, for a lot of people. Like I would have loved to have had that experience, right?
Right.
Of really truly not knowing what I was getting into when I was going to see Alien in the theater.
Yeah, I always kind of Jaws, Star Wars, and then like Halloween are like the 3 movies I'm like, this is like that in space in a way.
Yeah.
The void-eyed killer that has no like moral compass or its animal instinct or whatever is like, it's just scary.
Yeah. And thank you for bringing up Carpenter, because, this movie has an early genesis that includes John Carpenter because of Dark Star, with that O'Bannon worked on with John Carpenter.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, O'Bannon did so much on Dark Star that he wanted a co-director credit, but John Carpenter wouldn't give it to him, and that kind of contributed to their falling out. But that's sort of like the Dark Star experience led O'Bannon to writing the script for this, and kind of saying because he was always unhappy with how they did the Alien in Dark Star. It was kind of a joke. It was like a spotted beach ball.
Right.
So it was like, I'd like to do something that's more serious, that's scary. And that's where Alien started. Which is also funny to me. I don't know. I tried to do a little bit of research, but I sent that little clip to you guys, and that's from Dark Star, of one of the characters with the knife going through his fingers. And that's from Dark Star, and that was used in Aliens. It's like, was that a nod? I have to know. I haven't done enough research to find out, but I have to know if Cameron put that in the movie as a salute to O'Bannon or not.
Interesting.
But one more thing on Carpenter. Think about the beginning of Alien, right? And how it starts with all the places in the movie where all the action's gonna be, but it's quiet, it's serene almost, right? It's calm, and then all that shit goes down in those same places. Now think about the end of Halloween. It's the reverse, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It showed all the places where the attacks took place.
And it's also what Fincher very, very smartly did at the end of Alien 3. He took that same concept of the end of Halloween and mirrored the beginning of Alien with the scenes, the places, the empty spaces of the prison before they all leave and it gets decommissioned. So, anyway.
Man, you have to be paying a lot of attention to notice this shit.
I've read a lot about this movie.
But somebody knows, right?
Yeah,
Somebody's paid attention and figured that out, unless an interview was given where they said this was the reason I did this. Like, people are figuring this shit out in a lot of places.
We should also nod to the fact that it's also sort of like 10 Little Indians in space. We've talked about Agatha Christie and all of the versions of 10 Little Indians. A lot of slasher movies are pretty much like rooted in that concept as well.
Well, that's how they got Harry Dean Stanton. Because the one thing he said to Ridley Scott was, "I don't like horror and I don't like science fiction."
Yeah.
And it's like, well, think about this as more like 10 Little Indians.
Well, all he has to say is right. So maybe that got him too.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right.
He says Jonesy too. He says
does.
Jonesy.
And kitty.
Yeah.
This kitty. Like Jonesy.
Yeah, so this is kind of the classic, kind of. Well, we'll get to the alien here in a little bit because there's also something brilliant about that design too. But yeah, this is the classic thing where it's like, you get a call from someplace. First of all, they wake up, they think they're about to be at home. They don't know how long they've been out. They've just, they've been woken up from the freeze. They expect, Earth is coming right up and I can't wait to get home and spend my shares.
This isn't our system. I love that Ridley keeps saying that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
I love the tension between
Ripley. Sorry.
Between Ripley and Lambert right from the start.
Yep.
Yeah. And so he's so like they're basically like, okay, well, hey, Dallas, which is Tom Skerritt, you gotta go talk to Mother. And we don't know anything about Mother other than it's the machine that they get their orders from. Which there is, I'm sure that's got to be some sort of a HAL 9000 type of.
It is. It definitely is.
Gotta be.
They were acutely aware of making Mother very much a HAL, but then sneaking in the real HAL, right?
Yeah.
Which is an extension of Mother, anyways.
Sure.
Yeah, in some ways. Mother is really just a deep space computer and
but it's giving
communications machine, right?
It's giving the prime directive to
yeah. But it's all coded, right? It's all coded. It's all company controlled. Right. The company is sending these messages through Mother, and Mother, yes, has control of the basic functions of the ship and everything, but it doesn't.
Well, somebody's got to while they're asleep.
Yeah, exactly. It's the thing that's kind of keeping them.
It's the brain of the ship.
It's the brain of the ship. Yeah,
it's Gypsy from Mystery Science Theater.
I've never thought of it as a sentient being. I guess is where I'm going. But Ash certainly is a sentient being.
Well, yeah, because isn't he just a person right now? He's just a person right now, Jason. It's a spoiler alert.
He's just a person right now. Yeah.
It is funny. I would like to see this movie like I want somebody to go and do surgery on my brain and take out my knowledge of this movie and watch this movie and see if I can pick, because it's okay. You know, Ash is very obviously a robot. All of these movies have one secret robot, and
they do also now, yeah.
Well, that's my new band name. One Secret Robot.
One Secret Robot.
Yeah.
Well, and they, you know, and they all run on milk and spaghetti, and it's kind of awesome. Marbles. But anyway, it's and like anal beads. There's some anal beads inside
their
their
neck.
Like
anal beads, aren't they? Yeah.
This robot has come to party.
I mean, but anyway. well, the milk is no accident either, because I mean, there's so much about this movie that's already very sexual in nature and in design. So yeah, I mean, milky liquid and anal beads.
I mean, yeah. But then
don't need to spell that one out.
Right. So they, you know, like I'd like to know if it's as obvious, because like at first you just think of him almost like a Mr. Spock-like character. He's doing things very scientifically, but it doesn't take very long before you realize, oh no, he is purposely making sure this thing lives.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not just opening the door for Dallas and Kane to get in. It's more than that. It's you know,
like he has to kind of relent to Dallas when Dallas orders him to take it off or try to take it off. But
I think he knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, he probably does. He probably does know what's going to happen, and that's probably why they're not listening to Yaphet Kotto.
Yaphet Kotto?
Yeah. Because he's like, why didn't they freeze it? It's like, yeah, that would be the smart thing to do. Now that you've already brought it in and contaminated the crew, which Ripley was vehemently against.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should have just frozen it. But you're right. Yeah, the signs are there, right? All the little things that Ash does throughout the movie before you know what he is, you go back and watch it, and you're like, oh, yeah. He's manipulating everything.
Right. And
even his little weird robotic run that he does to warm himself up.
Oh yeah. Well, and then,
I don't think Ash is doing that on his own, though. I think he's getting that directive from Mother.
Oh yeah, but also Tom Skerritt.
That's what I was trying to say earlier,
right?
But it's all there that he's
in the know.
In the know, and he doesn't have
moving
the
pieces. He's moving the pieces into place. Now Dallas is too much of a company man to, unlike Ripley, be able to say, "Hey, wait a minute. Why should I give over everything to this other guy? It's my ship. It's my, it's like this guy just joined this crew as a replacement right before we left. What are we doing? I have a different
read on Dallas. I don't think he's a company man. I think he's like checked out and like.
I agree with
that too. But I mean,
he's like, I control the ship. All things science is Ash. He just doesn't give a fuck. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But he is very concerned. He is very invested in his crew, which is why he wants the facehugger off of Kane, which is why he wants to break the quarantine protocol, because he's very crew first. He's a humanist, right? Which maybe makes him a great leader and a bad leader, right? Hey, it should just be a simple miner or refinery mining mission, right? Where we're asleep for most of it. Like nothing probably happens on these missions, so it's easy.
It'll prepared for this kind of protocol too, right?
Right, yeah, they don't prepare for xenomorphs. No way.
Right, not even xenomorphs. Just go to another planet.
In fact, they're not even trained for it. Right, it's just in their contract.
I mean that's the thing that Parker, Yaphet Kotto. I mean, like
Parker, thank you.
I'm on his side. This is not in our wheelhouse. I mean, like I do this all. This is a big part of my job day to day. It's like, hey man, that's a different department, man. What do you want me to do? It's like, I can't do that. I can't,
Jeff, the Parker of software tech.
I kind of am. Where's my bonus?
Where's my bonus? I want a full share.
I want a full share.
But they get fine printed into this, right? It's part of their contract. If they don't take these side missions, no money.
No money.
And I suspect that has been, I think that was probably baked in on this specific mission.
Maybe. I mean, if they knew.
Could be.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, well, yeah.
It's hard to say. Yep.
I'm sure they have it in every contract in case.
Yeah.
In case they come across xenomorphs.
That's what I would imagine. I mean, this is the epitome of the soulless corporate, entity. I'm sure there's all sorts of stuff like that baked in. Yep.
Right.
Yeah. So they get the call saying it's like, well, there's a burst that some sort of signal that repeats every like 15 seconds or whatever it is.
Right.
And they say, okay, well, send it. It's like, okay, well, we got to go. Parker and Brett are like, nah, I don't really know. Let's go home.
It's like, so too bad.
Too bad. And then so they go. Well, there's two groups of people that each individually run into a problem. They sort of break the ship when they land.
Yeah.
And then you've got a crew that is now going to look at this crashed spaceship. Now, are aliens a thing in this world? Okay.
Yes.
Are people aware that they exist? Like, are humans aware
exactly
of
what I'm
xenomorphs?
asking. Well, not xenomorphs,
well, not necessarily
but
xenomorphs,
aliens.
Because Tom Skerritt
extraterrestrial life has been discovered.
Yeah, there's a sentence earlier that someone says that kind of alludes to. We haven't found anything out here before, but yeah,
and
it's also cemented.
Gotcha.
It's also cemented in Aliens later, where
But that's
Bill
like
Pax,
50 years later, though, right?
True, it is. I guess a lot can happen in 50 years. But where Bill Pax says, "Was this another bug hunt?" Right? So it's like,
I would love to see the Alien and the Starship Troopers worlds intersect.
Man, yeah.
But no, I
don't think anything on this level of malevolence has been discovered. But
gotcha. But Dallas is pretty fucking smooth operator when he sees that thing in the chair, and he's like, oh yeah, looks like something exploded from the inside. Which is mostly how Tom Skerritt sounds in this movie. Yeah, he is pretty checked out, isn't he?
That's how I read almost everything he does.
Yeah,
like he takes shortcuts on things. Like, we don't need those other 7 things done. Let's just get the fuck out of here.
Let's get the fuck out of here. Yeah,
it's kind of
I'm on his side on that one.
It's kind of why I love it, because we're in awe. The audience is in awe, especially if that space jockey set. Oh my god,
it's awesome.
Yeah. And they're just kind of treating it as any old discovery, right? And so it kind of gives, like, it lends a little bit more of that weight to, they're just the working man, right? And they have no idea what they're stumbling into.
And I think Kane is awful calm if he'd never run into, like, eggs somewhere, or, this stuff is known. He wouldn't have jumped down. I know he slips, but he was like, oh, I'm just going to go look at these eggs.
Check it out.
You must have some kind of comfort with this kind of thing.
I've always been intrigued by the line where he volunteers to go, right? Immediately, he's like, well, I volunteered to go on the ground crew or the exploratory mission or wherever he says. And then Dallas is like, well, that figures, right?
Yeah.
I've always been kind of intrigued by that, because that's really, you don't get a lot of real personality inputs into who Kane is, but that's a big one.
And he seems
he's the explorer, he's the fearless one in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Well, he pays for it, but I mean, like, you see a thing inside a little egg doing this, and I'd be like, no thanks.
That is okay. So
I'm out.
That egg scene is what I remember the most from probably the first time I watched this movie. And my God, I just watched it on Blu-ray, and I think this is the first time I really noticed how fucking incredible the detail is.
So good.
in that egg. I'm like, how did you even do that in 1979?
I could tell you if you want to know.
I do. If it's not good for the show, you could tell me later, or you could tell me now. Your call.
Well, it's sheep intestines is what's in there. Yeah, so a lot of the gory stuff you see in this movie is like real animal intestines, awful and grody. So yeah, that's a sheep intestine that you're looking at in there.
Actually, you just hit it right on. It's awful.
It's awful. Yeah,
it literally is awful. Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course they had it rigged to open up and the facehugger to like spring out. But those eggs, of course, they probably didn't make them all in the exact same detail, especially not with sheep intestines in them. That was just for the hero egg. But
the hero egg.
Geiger, that's what they call them. Like the hero prop is the one that's on screen the most, or that is involved in the action. It's a real term. Thanks.
I know because all the ships in Star Trek are called hero ships. Yes.
But Geiger made 130 eggs for this thing.
Jesus Christ!
They wanted to have show that scale in there. I mean, nowadays you just digitize all that shit, right? He made 130 of them. Yeah.
Have you ever done this for Easter, Jason?
Oh, like watch this movie for Easter?
No, to give out alien eggs. Like make little alien eggs and give them out.
Dude, you could do this real easy.
I could put real like sheep intestines in them too.
No. You don't have to do it. Just buy a bunch of Cadbury eggs and just like put a different wrapper on them and make them look like gooey like alien eggs.
That would look kind of cool. You could like cut something out of it and
at the top put a little.
You could cover
and then there's
some kind of
goo
like
that will come out of it,
like a latex, almost like you cover them in like a condom or something, right? And you could put a little green. If you're giving them to kids, you could put a little green light in there.
No, if you give them to kids, put them into the.
Hand them out? That's way too much work for.
Also, like the coolest dude in the world.
Also, Easter is not like Halloween.
We do only get like 8 trick-or-treaters though, so I guess I could.
Yeah, how did I merge 2 holidays there? I merged
completely opposite ones too. Although I do like the idea. I
totally went with it. Yeah.
And I'm sitting here. I'm like, have I been Eastering wrong? All I want is like some fucking Reese's eggs. But no, what I was just thinking.
You go to everybody's door. He is risen.
The power of Christ compels you to give me candy. Sorry, go ahead, Jason or Jeff. Sorry.
When you were saying that you were going to put them into like a condom, I was like, okay, you're going to put like a Cadbury egg in a condom, and then like when somebody comes to the door, you're like whipping it at them.
Oh my god! I was just thinking like to make it like, sort of. I don't want rubbery.
Let's move on.
Condoms anywhere.
I'm just saying that I would not give them to anyone to eat. Is what I'm saying. Like,
right.
But
anyway, so he that whole shot setup of him seeing the eggs, and now we want to know what's inside. And it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then the thing opens up, and it's like, whoa, what's inside there? And then, and it flies out, and it melts his face. And I love the way that the glass like looks
concaves in.
Yeah.
Like from the acid.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
It is good stuff. And I've always loved the look of, and I've always been confounded by it as well. But that blue sort of fog of laser across the top of the eggs.
Yeah, what is that? Is it like an alarm?
That's what's been kind of discussed. Yeah, and Ridley Scott will say, it's kind of like a protective barrier. It's almost like a sensor, so that the egg they know organically that there's something like almost like a spider web that's been triggered, right? But in reality, it was a stage light that Roger Daughtry of The Who was experimenting with.
No way.
Swear to God.
No fucking way.
Swear to God. Yep. They were in the studio next door, like testing all of their tour equipment for their stage show, and Ridley Scott was like, "Can I use that?"
That's fucking amazing.
I just thought it was like a design choice, like an add-on feature to the space.
No, they were doing fog, but they realized it would look so much cooler if it could be defined by a light in some way, and that was their solution. Yeah.
All right. Well, all of that is awesome. And then, so now
Chuck's mind is blown. I can look in his face. He's
yeah, he's like,
I can't. I mean, I'm thinking through all the scenarios and trying to make who jokes at the same time.
It's a damn shame that we're not talking about Moonraker next month, because I could have also said, it's like, oh yeah, Stanley Kubrick was hanging out on set of that movie, and then talk about that, and Jason's face would have like melted. But anyway,
you know what Stanley Kubrick's favorite movie was?
It's not a Moonraker, obviously.
It was Eraserhead.
Oh, wow. Anyway.
I didn't know that.
So, so now chaos has erupted because Kane's face is melted. And it's not, but you know what I'm saying. They're like, they don't know what's going on with him. So they're like, we got to get back in the ship. And Ripley's like, no, sir. It's like, I'm on her side. No, sir. You ain't bringing that shit in.
Absolutely. I totally agree, but then we'd have no movie, right?
I know, but I mean, I'm talking about real life.
That's what I love, though, about it's her first kind of moment in the movie where she's the one who probably should be in charge, right? And she's the one that you would want to follow. Now it would suck for Kane, and maybe suck for Dallas and Lambert to wait 24 hours. But probably the best decision as things played out.
Yeah, I mean, Ripley is a sacrifice the few for the many kind of idea.
Which is, but it does kind of make a lot of sense.
She's proven out.
Well, I mean, it does make a lot of sense that she is very by the book, because she is just a warrant officer.
Yeah.
So she's like low on this totem pole.
Yeah, she's third in charge.
But it's a very junior role, so it's like she is like fresh out of
and two of them are engineers,
right. And so like she is very by the book, whereas Dallas is very
if they were on a military expedition, she would be like 50th. Yeah, but since this is such a small expedition without expectation of like military conflict or that kind of conflict or whatever, she's up the chain like much faster.
Right.
Totally.
Well, yeah, especially when you have engineers, who are just there to fix shit, and not really
or not want
pilot,
to fix shit.
And then one of them's just a pilot, right?
Right.
Just a pilot. I shouldn't say just a pilot. Pretty important job, but when your ship pretty much like flies itself, is it really that important of a job?
That's what I say to my brain all the time. Like, don't make me. This shit flies itself. I don't want to decide nothing.
I don't want to decide this shit.
That's the most Homer Simpson thing I've ever heard you say.
Definitely, 100% it is. Yeah.
Anyway, so basically, she's like, "No, you're not getting inside. This is here's the rule. It's like you risk all of us." But then Ash comes along, he's like, "Oh, doop-de-doo," and she opens the door. And next thing you know, they're in the infirmary, and Ripley comes walking along. It's like, what the fuck is this shit?
And it's funny, too, because he uses the excuse when she confronts him later that he was doing what his captain told him to do. And then, in almost a few beats later, or even maybe it was before that, Dallas tells Ripley, well, he handles all matters of science. So, like, they're both, nobody wants to really say they're in charge here, right?
I think Ash, though, is kind of we know
convoluting.
Why. We know so
why.
When he's not even lying when he says my captain told me to do it. He's just not talking about Dallas.
Reason. Yeah. It's a convenient reason to give her. Yes. Yeah. Yes. But she knows he's bullshit, and that's when she's like, I don't fucking trust him. Right?
Right, yeah. You forgot this.
Like, if you were the science officer, you'd agree. Right? Yeah. This is one of the core tenets of, like, what we do in these situations. And the science officer of all people should know that. Yep.
Right. Yep. Fucking Ash.
Fucking Ash.
Fucking Ash.
Bilbo Baggins, that bastard.
He needed to get his precious on the ship to get it back to them.
Yeah. So then, so basically at this point, this is like, what, 30, 35 minutes of build up. One big thing.
Good shit has happened, man. Like, really good shit has happened.
But we're not on the roller coaster yet.
No.
we still get another like 15 minutes of them like, I don't know.
What do you want to do? I don't know.
I don't know. What do you want to do? You want to do this? I don't like this. I don't trust that guy. And then he keeps calling in saying, you better come check out what's going on. And like, they're always like, well, can you just tell us now? And they're like, yeah, it's easier if you came down here.
Even though he could just say it fell off, right?
It fucking fell off and I can't find it.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I mention one thing before we get there? Because this is one of the most like tense scenes in the movie for me is when they try to cut it off and the acid starts burning through the floor.
It's going to burn through it's going to burn through the hole if they're not.
All the realization of what this little monster is to this ship that's made of metal is like, holy fucking shit. They can't even do anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
To it.
Yep.
Sorry.
Well,
wonderful defense mechanism.
That's
Don't dare kill it.
Yep.
Wonderful. Parker.
Yeah.
Parker.
Yeah, Parker's shit.
Yeah, yes.
He pulled I got to tell you a quick Parker story. Yaphet Kotto. He pulled a Steven Seagal on set one day.
He shit himself?
No. That's funny though. He didn't want to film his death scene.
Oh.
He started yelling at Ridley Scott. I'm not gonna die today. I'm gonna beat that alien.
Yaphet Kotto is an interesting character.
Ridley Scott said it got so bad with him on set that he would have production assistants warn him like at what entrances he was at, so he could come in and exit different ways, because every morning he came to him with like 1,000 new ideas for his character.
That's hilarious. I wonder if he was supposed to die first and he just talked himself later in the script over and over again.
I like that idea. I've never read the shooting script. That could be, Chuck. That could be.
Well, so Yaphet Kotto, interesting story about him. At one point, I remember, this was, I want to say like maybe the early 90s when I heard this. I think he used to claim that he was rightfully part of the British monarchy.
I think I remember hearing this too. Yeah,
but I think it's through some uncomfortable means. But he used to claim that, and he also claims that he rejected a lucrative film offer in hopes of being cast here. Is he trying to say he was Lando Calrissian?
Oh my God! I can't imagine anyone else in that role, but he would have been hilarious. Yeah.
Could you imagine him just every morning waiting for waiting at the foot of George Lucas's bed?
I mean George Lucas already wanted to kill himself at the end of that movie. I think if Yaphet Kotto was in that movie, he would have. I think he would have. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think there would have been any sequels. at least not spearheaded by George Lucas.
Yeah. But anyway, so anyway, no, Yaphet Kotto is an interesting character. I suggest you read up on him a little bit. He's awesome in Live and Let Die. I will say that.
He most definitely is. Are we covering that in the Bond month? No, we're not. That one didn't make the cut. Okay.
No, I wanted to, but it's like, there was a better one for more to talk about.
Okay. Good deal.
So anyway.
So yeah, it burns through the hole. It stops eventually, but they find the husk, right? The shedded skin of the face hugger, and then eventually Kane comes to. He's wakes up. He seems.
But they notice that the thing still has reflexes because they poke its little vaginal bits.
Oh yeah,
that's the best way to describe it. That thing is so
really
gross.
Good too.
Yeah, it's so gross.
Great.
You mentioned earlier, Chuck, you were away at the time, but yeah, everything about this is very sexual. It's impregnation.
It's a phallic gender. Yes,
and it's
fucking Kane gets raped.
Yes,
and impregnated
by a vagina dick. Yeah.
It is like. I mean, I think that was just a thing in science fiction in the late 70s. It's like, we got to make this shit sexy.
When I was in my 20s.
A lot of this is Geiger at this point.
Sure.
And that specifically was, the facehugger was originally based, O'Bannon wanted it based on a Francis Bacon triptych. And then that's what he gave to Geiger. And of course, like Francis Bacon and Geiger, like that's a marriage made in hell. He took that and ran with it, but he ended up actually giving the rest of that project to, I forget, the head production designer on the film, because he was working on all the damn eggs and designing the alien suit. But O'Bannon, this is where O'Bannon came in. He was like, he oversaw the facehugger and the chest burster, because he was like, they've got to be like to the specs that Geiger has given us, because it's way too good.
I remember watching this in my 20s and like paying specific attention to that, maybe even with you, Jason, when we lived in San Diego. I'm not sure, but we watched this movie and just pay attention for all the phallic references and all the sexual stuff.
Yeah,
it's just pick that out.
It's loaded with it. And everyone
this time I didn't even like. I was like, I've been down that road before. I'm more interested in like Ripley's gender. Like the gender swap of the hero and all that stuff is like way more interesting to me these days.
And on the derelict, it's there too. Like it's everywhere. But it's interesting, because it's like, I don't know what it really says, other than just making a really interesting motif, especially when you do get into some of what we'll probably talk about the gender swap of the hero, right?
Right.
Because that really hadn't been done before this. Not quite this dramatically,
right?
Other than maybe your typical kind of, final girl kind of stuff.
But I think those, I think those visuals do lend to the nature of the overarching theme of a corporation that's fucking you.
Oh, sure.
Right? Like,
yes.
it's cool.
Yes.
It's like a representation of that in sight.
Most definitely, especially later with Ash in the magazine. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Very, very overt. Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess we get to the scene that everybody knows.
Yeah.
The get this man some Pepto-Bismol scene.
Yes. I about shit my pants when I watched Spaceballs the first time, and that scene happened. I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen in my life.
It still cracks me up. It still fucking cracks me up. And the singing, because the dancing alien off stage is like looks so much like the runner. It's like, oh god, that's good.
And this movie was not that many years behind me. It was maybe a year behind me, right?
Oh,
by the time I saw Alien, right? Or
me too, probably.
Spaceballs.
Yeah, me too, probably.
Yeah.
So it was right there. I mean, that joke was made for me.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. Hello, my ragtime gal.
He puts on a little hat.
That's the best.
So good.
So anyway, so basically it's like, wow, I guess it's interesting that nobody stops to say, isn't it weird that Kane is okay?
Yeah, you'd think the science officer would. Uh-huh.
Well,
the one guy who could have maybe just
well, the science officer, he knows. Ash knows. He was already looking in the video screen earlier.
So you think Dallas just didn't notice it and Ash did? Because they were looking together.
Well, Dallas...
I think he was showing something different.
Yeah, I think what Ash was looking at later was different than what he was looking at when Ripley came in and when he turned the screen off.
Okay, fair. So he didn't notice it when he and Dallas were doing this scan. He noticed it.
He was waiting for it.
And then he hand slapped her. Like, don't touch my shit. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Because if you watch him in that scene, he's like Mr. Shifty the whole
he is shifty as fuck.
He is just he is like he is I almost expect him to just like put his hands behind his head and lean back in his chair to like he's going to watch the show, because he knows what the fuck's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, if you aren't sure about him, that is definitely the moment. Like, if you're unsure whether he's evil or just whatever, that's the moment you're like, okay, this guy's fucking...
There's something wrong. They're telegraphing way too much. I don't necessarily know he's an android.
Right.
It's not a goddamn
I don't know if he's a secret robot.
But a secret robot, yes. But he's bad news. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So basically, everything seems fine. Everybody's having dinner. They're about to go back to sleep. Which, if he hadn't wanted something to eat,
the Last Supper saves them.
Well, the last supper kills him.
Yeah, but it saves the rest of the crew and Earth.
Well, it might save Earth. It kills
the crew.
The crew
that lives
in the immediate sense. It kills the crew. It kills the crew. Yeah.
But it probably saves Earth.
That would be. I've always wanted that movie, like a well done.
What if they didn't eat and they put, or even I was going to bring this up earlier, but I'll do it now too. Like when what if they froze them?
Well, they never knew. They
at the time they should have.
They do very much mention, hey, we don't know what temperature does to this thing.
Right.
So, it's like they never actually, like, let's assume that Ash was on the up and up for a second and not a secret robot and not sent there to do villainous shit, right? He's not a very good science man because it's like there's a lot that he could do as opposed to just letting them sit on the fucking slab.
Oh, yeah.
And they do none of it. He tests nothing. He just lets them stay there.
Yeah. I think
he
that's
X-rays
like
them.
He's not a science man, though, I don't think either. He's a plant, right? Like you said.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying assume that he isn't. Assume that he is on the up and up.
He's imbued with all the science things, but he's also imbued with a lot of knowledge that we don't have.
Yeah,
right.
But if he's imbued with that knowledge and the prime directive is to get this specimen back to Earth, letting it run free is about the dumbest thing you can do.
I kind of agree with that because I still go back to Parker saying, why don't you freeze it? I do. Because that is the smartest thing in my mind. To do,
Parker's the smartest guy on the show.
Even if you have nefarious ideas, the smartest thing to do is to freeze it. Unless
don't let it destroy Earth.
Unless here's the thing, Parker is not a human.
Ash is not a human.
Or sorry, Ash is not a human. So it's reasonable to believe that. Hear me out. That the alien, the xenomorph, won't attack him. Will have no interest in him, right? So it could very well be that this whole thing is playing out much like Paul Reiser in Aliens, right? Where he wants the alien to get embedded, to get incubated in Newt or Ripley or both, so he can easily smuggle them back. It's not unreasonable to believe that he wants to observe the full life cycle, right? And then be able to bring back a live specimen. And they probably, the company will know, okay, it's on the ship, that will probably have preparations in place for how to capture it. Like the company will know everything that's happening.
I can live with that.
And they can probably capture it. I mean, that's sort of like the end result you see happen in Resurrection. It's kind of like takes that idea to fruition in a way.
But it also, like, it's very obvious that they are well in over their head. This thing's a killing machine,
Yes.
I mean, there's, like, if you want to capture one of these, I guess you got to get a predator. Because that's it. I mean, that's the answer, right?
That's the only answer to save Earth.
Is gotta go find a predator
in this situation. Yes. In a movie that I hate so much. I hate that movie so much.
Anyway,
finally, we get aliens attacking civilization, and it's the worst movie I've ever seen in my life.
That can't be true.
It's not the worst movie I've ever seen in my life, but it's one of the biggest disappointments in my life.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, I knew it was going to suck, but I still own a copy of it.
Of course you do. So basically, it's everything's fine. He wants to have his big last dinner before he goes back to the freezer, and the thing pops out of his chest and takes off running.
Love it.
Yeah,
the sound design of that scene is so wonderful. It's hilarious because you remember when I did that video for eTapestry? Well, sorry, it's a company we all work for. Chuck is raising his hand.
I was going to say, we refilmed this scene.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, we did refilm the scene, but we plugged in the actual chest burster part. Susan did because she had editing skills at that point, and I did not. And she plugged it in, and we listened to the audio for that scene probably 100 fucking times. Every time Susan hears the audio, she can hear the audio, and she's like, "Yep, I know what that is." And she just started laughing. When I was watching it, she was doing a puzzle. She wasn't watching with me, and she heard the audio come on, and she just started laughing.
That's hilarious.
It's so ingrained in both of us, like every beat of the audio design in that scene.
We should attach that video when we drop this episode. No,
Yeah.
never mind. But yeah.
So, it takes off running, and now, well, we've got this thing loose on the ship, and we got a dead second in charge.
Yeah.
And they don't even say anything for him. They just
No,
yeet him
it
out
is
in the
cold.
space.
It's so cold. It's like, man, I mean, yeah, it just kind of piles on in that moment, doesn't it?
Yeah. Because it's like, man, either these people really don't like each other, or they're just so checked out or fed up or whatever.
I don't think they do like each other. That's the thing. Like,
Well, I mean, they're
and
co-workers,
honestly,
they're not friends.
I don't even know that they really know each other that well because they're
Maybe not. Because Yaphet Kotto's constantly hitting on Veronica Cartwright,
yeah.
and she is not having it.
Yeah, there's some director's cut stuff that kind of hints to Lambert having hit on Ash and him not being interested, right? And then also it hints at a potential relationship between Dallas and Ripley, which honestly makes the most sense.
It's still there a little bit.
I agree. I think it is there. It's there more in the director's cut. And I don't think it needs to be there more. I think it's there just enough. Right? Yep.
So yeah, I mean, really, like this is now you've gone over the hill now. You know, and we're screaming towards the finish at this point, and it's like it is surprising how slow the first half is and how really fast the second half. It
really cooks. It just does not stop moving.
I mean, because once they send because they have that classic scene where, like, you know, they're looking for the alien and Jonesy pops out, the cat, and like takes off running. By the way, the sound editing on Jonesy is hilarious because that cat is fucking pissed all the time. Yeah. Like she's like petting it and it's like growling at her. And it's like that cat does not like anybody, or they're like, I don't know what a cat sounds like. They make these sounds, right? And it's like hissing. I guess
there were like there were four cats. And Ripley thought that the cat's role was more secure than hers. she always thought that she was going to get fired from that movie. Yeah,
that's wild. How long were they in hypersleep for?
I don't know.
Is it only like a matter of a couple years? Because the cat is not in hypersleep. I'm wondering.
No, the cat is. The cat is supposed to be shown as being in Ripley's pod, but it was cut. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the cat is. Now, an interesting thing that they toyed with doing was, and this is an endlessly interesting idea to me, and they kind of did it in Prometheus, was have Ash not necessarily be in hypersleep, right? Because why would he need to be? So they were trying to like reconcile that. Like, what do we do with that? But they purposely wanted them to think he was human, right? Later on, in like when Ridley Scott does Prometheus, he has the character David, who is an android. Everyone knows he's an android, and he does not go in hypersleep. He actually is the one who controls the ship while they're in hyperspace. And they have that wonderful scene. It's my favorite part of Prometheus. A wonderful scene where he's passing the time, right? Like years of time while the crew sleeps.
All they really needed to do in this movie was to show an open pod and him sitting there when they all woke up.
I mean, sure,
and it would just look like he woke up first.
Yeah.
Right. They purposely wanted Kane though, to wake up first because they wanted to create a psychological thought that he was the lead.
He's the guy.
Yeah.
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 I mean, it was kind of there until he got the facehugger.
Yeah, exactly. And they figured, well, it doesn't matter if he's bad guy anyway, and he's a plant, then and they don't know he's a robot, then we just make him be in a pod. Yeah.
Yeah. Fair.
And Mother runs the ship.
So so basically, Brett has to go off and find Jonesy. He's run off while Parker and Ripley are going to get back out on the hunt for the little alien fella. Well,
Fella.
the little fella.
He's such a fella.
Yeah, he's a swell guy. Anyway, this is when Parker finds, this thing has molted.
Yeah.
And which is really smart, by the way.
Yeah.
Let's have some real talk here for a second. If we ever come across an alien species, it's really, really unlikely that they're going to be humanoid.
Right.
So having an alien that looks so different, even though the alien really is kind of humanoid, we don't really see that until later.
Well, there's a reason for that, but yes.
Well, yeah, because there's got to be a person in the suit. But anyway,
there's another reason for that, but yes.
Well, sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, it is.
Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, I know the reason why. But anyway,
Okay.
But the concept that this thing is so much different than what you would expect, and that it does apparently have some sort of a exoskeleton, then yeah, molting makes sense. It doesn't grow; it has to shed itself. It has to pop itself out of a shell every now and then, and it grows fast.
Yep.
That thing is like bigger than a person in like an hour?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know how long it is in space time, but in movie time, but it's pretty fast. Yeah,
it's pretty fast.
Because by the time it kills Brett, it's fully formed, and that's the one thing I don't like about that. I shouldn't say I don't like about that. I like better about the director's cut, because it always bothered me in the theatrical cut that you see Brett die, and then it cuts. Hey, you have Jonesy and that really great shot of Jonesy looking, and then it cuts to Parker and Ripley telling Dallas how big it is. And that they weren't there. Went up to the air ducts, but they weren't there. But they are there in that scene. There's an extension to that scene where they run in when they hear the commotion and they see the alien go up drag them up into the air ducts.
Gotcha. Okay.
I like that. I don't know why they cut that. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're trying to be as tight as possible, I guess,
they were.
with timing.
They were, yeah.
Anyway, so now, so Brett is gone. Dallas decides, it's like we can blow it out into space. I think they constantly say we're going to blow that motherfucker out in space, which it cracks me up every time I heard it. It's like, yeah, get that motherfucker. Anyway.
I'm not going to die today. I'm going to beat that alien.
So he's got the flamethrower. He's got, he's like, I'm going to direct the thing to where we can blow the fucker out in the space.
Yeah.
And they're
kind of like cattle prod it, basically.
Well, he's also got the flamethrower too, so he's
before Brett gets it, they're going to use the cattle prod. They're going to
cattle prod to
now they got the flamethrower. Yeah.
But basically Dallas is he's going to die by way of Jeffrey's tube.
Yeah, the idea here is that he's going to get into the vents, and he's going to clear every space of it, and then close the vent behind it to the point where there's no place it can retreat or go, and essentially flushing it out.
The problem is it has made a home of the vents.
Yeah.
And it knows it a little bit better than they
events
expect.
better than they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, Dallas has one of the scariest off-screen deaths in movie.
Oh yeah, because it's all on radio. It's you don't see it.
Yeah, and that shot of the light, because you could just barely pick it out behind it. And you're like, what's going on behind them? And then,
Yeah,
and the arms, the hands move forward, and it's just oof.
Yeah,
it's super scary.
I like how you're warned 3 times by the eye closing mechanisms in the thing. It's like, oh, that's definitely death, right?
Yeah.
Like it's an eye closing.
Yep.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah,
It is pretty neat.
Gives
me shivers. That's so scary.
I also like how slobbery the alien is. That thing is wet.
Yeah, they've got some overactive
glands.
It's like they hung out with me a little bit.
You've got some overactive glands.
No, this is wet.
It's wet.
It's slimy.
No,
we're on different pages. I'm on Chuck's page.
I don't know.
Go back to the page of this movie being sexual organisms.
Oh, okay. All right.
Chuck didn't let that alien
that goes
get
with
to
slimy
him.
too.
No, yeah, they are slimy. Yeah.
So, So
now we're down a Kane. We're down
the 2 top officers of the ship.
Well, we haven't lost.
We have 2 women.
We are down the 2 top officers, and we're down Brett.
We're down to 2 women and Yaphet Kotto.
Does Brett go first, or does he go after Dallas?
Brett's first.
Brett's first, because that's right.
Because that was because we find the little.
They're using
skin.
the mechanism to follow the changes in air density. Whereas Ripley's like, changes in air density, my ass.
Right.
She does not trust anything that fucking Ash does at this point.
Yeah, and Ash is still around too, by the way. But this is
because that's right. Because that's when they gotta capture Jonesy. It's like Brett's big dumb moment where it's like, it's just a cat.
Yeah.
And Yaphet was like, well, we gotta catch it, otherwise they're gonna keep chasing it.
Right. Yeah. Well, then, so Ash, it's now becoming obvious that he is aware of things, and he starts sweating milk, which would be really sticky. Have you ever gotten milk in your beard? That shit gets sticky, man.
Right, because he knows Ripley is gonna go for the info, right?
Yeah. Well, because she has access now to Mother.
She's gonna ask the right questions. I don't feel like Dallas was asking the right
He
questions.
didn't give a fuck.
Right. Right. He didn't dig deep enough at all. He's kind of terrible at his job. He's kind of terrible at his job. But he did volunteer to go into the air ducts, which Ripley volunteered to do, and he's like, nope, it'll be me.
Yep. And so and now Ash goes nuts, and then like tries to roll up a magazine and cram it down her throat to kill her. Mm-hmm. Parker comes in and is like, what the fuck? And he can't, like, it's like, wow, this guy is like, he's like stronger than Yaphet Kotto. What's up with this?
Yeah, because he grips his chest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a wild thing.
It's like an ultimate purple nurple.
It's almost like he could if he let him, he could have like ripped into his chest and pulled out his heart.
Yeah. And then like, cause even like, Lambert comes in, Veronica Cartwright, she's kind of worthless in this.
Yeah.
I mean, she's oftentimes just kind of a screaming, blubbering mess.
She's the pilot, man. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
She said as much at Horror Hound too.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. I forgot that you guys,
She did actually. She was like, I didn't really have much to do. My character wasn't that great.
My character whined a lot about getting off the ship.
Yeah. She did win a Saturn Award.
She does slap Ripley, which is another good scene from the cut footage. She slaps Ripley after the whole quarantine thing. But anyway,
I need to watch that at some point. I have watched it, but
you
been a while.
can just watch the
cut scenes,
deleted scenes, and you'll get the gist. Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, basically, Yaphet Kotto starts wailing on Ian Holm with the fire extinguisher.
Yeah.
And then it knocks his fucking block off.
Dude, it does, and he like spins around,
Yeah.
and then he gets his head blocked off or block knocked off. What is it? His head blocked
Fuck is happening?
off. I just got my head blocked off. Apparently, spinning and spinning, and his white milk is flying everywhere,
And his anal beads come out of his
anal
throat.
beads, and his white viscous fluid just flying everywhere, and
Getting all
giving-
over everybody's
giving
face.
the whole ship a facial. Yep.
Hey guys, we've won an award. This is
we
award-winning
did. We're an
material.
award-winning podcast.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, he's an android, and he does have a really, really good line.
Oh, it's a great line.
So like they basically like, okay, so you knew everything that was going on. I was like, yeah, it's like crew was expendable, which is exactly what Mother told
Right.
Ripley.
It's like I thought it was clear. You read the.
Yeah, what are you talking
Order
about? What's the problem here?
937.
Oh man, when he creeps into that scene, like appears out of nowhere, holy shit!
Yeah, it's like his
When
head
she's-
just comes in.
Oh,
He's like,
in Mother. Yeah.
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 Ooh.
Thanks for showing that on screen, Jeff. You
Yeah,
just scared
well,
the shit out of me.
Just think about that when the lights go out tonight.
What's the line, Jeff? Do you have it, or do you want me to?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It says, "I can't lie to you about your chances, but you have my sympathy."
Yep. And so she flamethrowers that bitch.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And then
It's like we're going to take our chances on the shuttle because
I
guess
think-
what? The shuttle can't take 4. We ain't got 4 no more.
yeah.
Wait, did she do it, or I thought Yaphet Kodo
Maybe he
flamed her?
did.
Oh
He might
no,
have- he might have.
she rips his she rips
Oh
the,
yeah.
she rips the wires out to kill him basically.
Yeah.
And then Yaphet Kodo
He
flamethrowers him.
flamethrowers
By
him.
the way, I think it's the Alien movies that made me realize that flamethrowers are just the best.
Yeah,
It wasn't the
cool.
thing.
No, I would have seen this first. So the like, and also like George Carlin once
I think
said,
it's a cumulative effect for me, Chuck.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
like George Carlin once said, somebody thought, hey, I'd really like to set that guy over there on fire from over here. If only there was something that could throw the flames onto him.
Yeah. Best use of a flamethrower in the last 5 years is oh my god, the Quentin Tarantino movie that the name.
Oh God, yes. Inglourious Bastards.
No, that's good, but I'm talking
It's
about
not a flamethrower. Don't they flamethrow all the Nazis in the?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
theater?
two, but I'm talking the last 5 years.
Oh, you're talking about
DiCaprio by the
Once
Yeah.
Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's good.
Yes.
Yeah, Tarantino likes his flamethrowers.
Yes, he
yeah,
does.
Yeah, it is.
yeah.
I wasn't even thinking about the use.
But
of
you're
the-
right. You're right. That is a great moment. That was in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he had it, and it's like,
But
that's going to come back at some
flamethrowers. They
point.
were flamethrowers in Inglourious Bastards too, right? Because doesn't Eli Roth go in there with like a fucking flamethrower? and
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
into
like
the
just
theater.
lighting everything
Yeah,
on
the
fire.
theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so now they're going to set the ship to self-destruct.
Feet and flamethrowers, a new Quentin Tarantino podcast. Sorry, Jeff. Sorry.
Yikes. So basically they're going to blow the ship up, to kill the alien, and they're going to
Yeah.
escape on the escape ship, on the little shuttle,
Yeah.
which is also apparently where the freezer is. That's
Yes.
good. That's a good idea to put your sleeping module in the shuttle.
Yeah. What happens if you have to escape and you have no sleeping module?
I know, you're going to die a horrible death. I'd
Yeah.
rather blow up on the ship.
Well, maybe not horrible. You could die of natural causes.
But
It was,
if you don't have enough food,
Yeah, I guess you wouldn't have.
it's going to be
enough
bad. It's going to be a bad scenario. I'd rather
They
either
should
be
stock-
asleep or blown up.
food. Yeah, true. All right, go
Well,
ahead.
I'm sure
Continue.
I'm sure they stuck. Anyway, so I don't remember exactly what Lambert and Parker have to go and do, but it's their death.
Well, they go to get the liquid, the canisters of something. I can't remember what it is. Well, Ripley goes to the ship. Jason will know as soon as he gets back.
Here he is.
Parker
What's the Parker and Lambert have to do?
they're going to get
that gets them to
canisters of
kill?
something.
Oh shit, I can't remember. Well, Parker No, that was
they're just going to get life support supplies.
I think it's just
It's
like
just the
air,
supplies.
oxygen, and stuff. Because earlier Parker has to go refuel the flamethrower, but that's not that same scene.
No, they go get a bunch of canisters, and then
And
it's kind of like the scene years and years later in the classic Event Horizon, where they're doing the same thing. They're collecting all the oxygen canisters. Yeah.
It's almost as if the person who watched that movie
might have watched Alien. Crazy thought, I know.
Anyway, so and Ripley's going to go and she's going to start the self-destruct and go collect Jones.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so basically, she hears the alien killing them on the radio. And again, it's another one of those scenes where it's like it's very quick cut. She arrives too late and just basically sees them, crumpled up on the floor by the alien.
Yeah.
So then she goes and she can't, and Mother won't stop the. Mother's not doing. Was she trying to stop the self-destruct at that point, or what was it? Because there was a time you had 10 minutes, and after 5 minutes you can't stop the self-destruct.
I don't know. I don't think so.
But Mother
Mother
refuses her something.
I think the time just passed for her to be able to stop the self-destruct.
Okay.
Because she had been saying after 5 minutes, you can no longer stop self-destruct.
But then she asked Mother to do something, and then Mother's like, nope. And she's like, fuck her. And
I can't. Yeah.
See, now I'm getting it conflated with Aliens, because there's a much more dramatic thing with the self-destruct in Aliens, where she does kind of need to stop it. Because she's got to go, rescue Newt. But that ain't happening. Yeah.
So anyway, so she gets into the shuttle. She takes off. Her and Jones seemingly are safe. Everything's great. She's got to go put on the smallest pair of panties. That's somebody else's. Like that belonged to somebody else, because she's just like, I guess this is all that's on here. I'm gonna wear these. Because her butt crack's hanging out and everything.
That's an early awakening moment for young Jason. Definitely.
It's like, wow, butt crack. Yeah. But no,
it's not just that. Like, you can see
they're very sexy. They're very sexy. Yeah.
Very
they're
sexy
very
butt crack.
low riding.
Yeah. But they're not like they're not.
Those aren't too small for her. Those people wear those, Jeff.
I just don't think that they're like all the way
cover
up,
your
maybe.
butt cracks.
I don't know.
People wear underwear like that, but I'm just saying.
Anyway,
are you saying that you do?
Yes.
He is slimy.
I am people.
He is people.
So anyway, so she, like, everything seems to be fine. And my favorite jump scare, because remember I said everything looks like it belongs. In every shot at the beginning, right? Like, oh, what's that tube for? As well, it's got to be for something.
Aliens looks like tubing.
Alien head looks like tubing. Yep. It looks like a big old like a quarter section of a fucking inner tube.
Is it sleeping? Why does it let her do all the things that she does?
I now think
I have a theory as well.
I do too.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I don't think it can see that well.
I think it's dying.
Oh.
I think it's dying. I think that it has a short lifespan, and it's dying. So if you think about,
well, then these things are fucking worthless to predators because they're just going to die in a day.
Well, I think that they have like the alien as we know it, the xenomorph as we know it, especially in the second movie. I think that it is like an ant. Right, you have worker ants and you have protector ants that protect the queen. Right, what we have here is we have an alien separated from all of its function. So it is just aggressive.
Okay,
right? It's just protecting itself. It's the only thing it knows to do. But its lifespan is short, and so it's probably crawling into a small, quiet place to die, like a cat would. Right?
It's like the bee on the windowsill.
That's my thought.
You find that okay.
Because the function of the xenomorphs truly is they're all to spread, right, and to build. So, and a lot of times, like the reason why you take, they don't necessarily kill the people they attack. They take them and they put them in the egg room.
So that when the
face huggers come out, yes, they'll get incubated. Right.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Well, that's
there
way
actually
better.
Is a scene. There actually is a scene in the director's cut that I don't love, but I don't hate, where Brett and Dallas are still alive, but they've been kind of like plastered with gooey stuff into the wall. Like
so that gets reused in Aliens.
It gets reused in Aliens to better effect, because in Alien it looks like they're being cocooned into eggs, which doesn't make any sense. But Cameron was like, that's a great idea. They would do that if they wanted them to be incubated or while they were waiting to be hatched, right? Like for the chest burster to come out of them. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a way better thought than I had. But you're right though, because she knows that she only knows it's there because his hand kind of flops out, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not conscious, or it's not all there.
Yeah.
But
or it could just be starting to hibernate, right?
Yeah, it could be that,
because it knows that it's. But I do think it knew the danger of the ship that was going to self-destruct, so it was looking for a safe place.
all those siren lights were going off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah. So it could also just be like, starting to hibernate.
I'm just going to go with the first one.
Yeah, I kind of like that too. The only reason why I was thinking it couldn't see that well was that it stumbles out of that hiding spot, and it doesn't go right for her. In fact, she's able to get into that suit to protect her when she opens the airlock. So it's like it doesn't know where she's at. Like, it's not all there. So, but that could be a hibernation thing or a dying thing too.
Could be. Yeah, either one.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I dig it. Anyway, she blows that fucker out in the space. She finally does what she says she's going to do. Yep. Now, you got to give her that.
That crawls up into the after. What do they call those things? Not afterburner, but
that's like
on a rocket. What are they called? The thermal thrusters.
Thruster. There it is.
And burns it. Yeah.
Well, she doesn't burn it. She burns the tether from what it's like. Kind of holding on to, and then it just kind of floats off
into space. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you wonder, like, if it doesn't have a limited lifespan, is it just like hanging out in space? It didn't implode. It's exoskeleton, so it seems like it's pressure.
It's probably safe. Protected by it. Yeah.
I think that kind of the same thing happens in Aliens, right? It gets blown out into space, but I don't think it ever.
No, dies. Alien Resurrection, it gets sucked out through that one little hole.
Every 77 years. Every 77 years, the queen alien circles the earth. I'm pretty.
It flies by and waves at people.
It waves, yeah. The third one, they answer the question of, can it be frozen? Because they spray it with lead. Actually, it gets coated in lead, and then they super freeze it, and it explodes. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, also doesn't handle lava very well either in that regard. Then too.
Yeah, like one of them said, that most animals react pretty adversely to fire. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Jason. Any more tidbits you need to share?
I mean, I could be here all day with tidbits
that you need to share.
No, I don't think so. I think if anything, I tie a bow on the O'Bannon side of this thing, right? Because this is a Dan O'Bannon month. I want to make it clear that, Shusett and him kind of became buddies before Dan O'Bannon went off to do Dune with Jodorowsky. That whole thing imploded. Dan O'Bannon came back to Hollywood totally despondent. He didn't have any real money to his name. Moved back in or Shusett let him live with them, and then they started working on this script. And they also used portions of another script called that Dan O'Bannon had written that it discarded, called Gremlins, right? Which was more appropriate, not like the Joe Dante Gremlins, but more like actual gremlins on like a World War II ship that were attacking the crew. Right, so it gave it sort of that industrial monster on the vehicle feel, right? So he started incorporating elements of that into the script for Alien, which was Memory, then became Star Beast, and then he realized Star Beast was too kind of B movie. And he's like, well, it's about an alien. Let's call it Alien. And that's what they did. Roger Corman was originally going to make this movie, and if Roger Corman made this movie, I'm sure it would have been fun, but it wouldn't have been the classic that it
Roger
ended up
Corman
being.
made 2 versions of this movie later.
Yes, he did.
So
later,
don't worry
right.
about it.
That's what
James
Alien would
Cameron
have been.
did one of them.
That's what Alien would have been. The Galaxy of Terror, was that one of them? Yeah,
That's one of them. Yeah.
But
Is that the one with Sid Haig? Yeah, that's the one with Sid
But a friend
Haig.
of Shusitz was like, I think I can get you more money. He and maybe a studio. He brought it to Brandywine, where Walter Hill was, and one of the producers of Brandywine had just made Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, a movie we've covered on here.
Yeah.
Connections within connections.
And then Brandywine was like, yeah, we'll produce it, and they brought it to 20th Century Fox for more money. 20th Century Fox kind of sat on it because they were afraid of taking another risk on a sci-fi picture, and then Star Wars was Star Wars, and they were like, yep, greenlit. And Dan O'Bannon was kind of getting pushed out. He wasn't allowed to see the dailies. He had to sneak into the dailies room. He was brought on as creative consultant because Ridley Scott recognized his vision, right, and his imagination, how long he had been connected to this. And Dan O'Bannon is the one that brought Geiger to the project. He's the one who showed Necronomicon to Ridley Scott. He had previously shown Necronomicon to the 20th Century Fox people, and they were like, no, we want nothing to do with that weirdo shit. But when they were trying to figure out how to design the costume, Ridley Scott was like, this is my biggest problem. If I don't have a good, scary alien,
it all falls apart.
It all falls apart. And that's when Dan O'Bannon showed him Geiger's work, and Ridley Scott to this day says, I've never been more sure about anything in my life. And then famously said, this is either the end of my problems or the beginning of them. And that was kind of history. Like the Dan O'Bannon, for everything anyone might say about their creative input in this movie does not get made without him. And it does not look the way it looks without him either. So integral to this absolute masterpiece of gothic sci-fi horror.
I agree. It is a masterpiece. Real quick, one last thing I'll say. When playing Metroid, I always called the one monster Ridley Scott. Because Ridley was his name.
Yeah. That's cute.
Chuck, you got anything?
No. I think
the fall in between goofy and really smart sounding?
Well, you know me, I'll probably go goofy, so I'll just say great movie. Always in my rotation, and that was fun. That was a fun chat.
Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. It is good stuff. Guys, we are off and running for Spooky Month.
We are.
Yay.
We are. Hope we spooked you out.
Yeah, we are going to come back to Earth next week. Next week, we're going to talk about Dead and Buried. A movie that's got all the atmosphere. All of it.
So much atmosphere.
So much. It's so much atmosphere. It looks foggy the whole time. It's a heavy atmosphere. So that's going to be next Wednesday. That's October the 11th. And then, hey, you know what? Spooky Month is happening for Monster Mondays too. Did you know that?
Ooh.
It does?
I mean, I would assume that most people would figure the Spooky Month is every month for Monster Mondays, but this whole month I've dedicated to a little bit more recent type of stuff. A couple of them from the 70s, but the next one that I have is Hell House LLC, a very, very fine little found footage spook. Yeah. So like that movie a lot. So that's also Monster Mondays number 249. So I don't know if you guys know what number 250 is, but that's coming very soon.
We're going to find out.
You're going to find out. You're going to find out. So that is Monday on October 9th. You can listen to that Monster Mondays episode for Hell House. It's also Spooky Month at B-Movie Enema.
No.
Yeah, right? This month I'm revisiting franchises that I've done before, starting this week, this Friday morning, with Night of the Demons 3. I'm finally putting that whole series to rest. So yeah, that is just now getting a really nice. That whole original trilogy is getting a real nice update from Scream Factory. So
nice.
Anyway, yeah. So that is what's on the docket. So next week we're gonna go hang out with Grandpa Joe. In Potter's Bluff, and things are gonna be spooky for 3 more weeks. So until next time, I am Jeff Arbuckle.
I'm Chuck Moore.
And I'm Jason Oliver, last surviving member of Film Seizure, signing off.